Hello friends, how are you? Today I am going to discuss my point of view on the sexual harassment of women at workplace. So I will be discussing the practical procedures involved in it and how you can take benefit of this act if you happen to be an aggrieved woman, and how can you take the benefit of act if you happen to be an accused or a respondent in this matter. First of all, this act was enacted in 2013 by the government to protect a female at the workplace against the physical conduct and advances, demand or request of sexual favors, or making sexually colored remarks by male counterpart, or or any type of verbal or non verbal communication which makes a female uncomfortable. So when this act was enacted, especially two things were formed. One was known as ICC, that is known as Internal Complaint Committee, and the other one is LCC, Local Complaint Committee. So ICC is formed within the organization. It comprises of members, which includes one third females, and there's a composition of ICC within the organization. If you are subjected to any kind of harassment, you may report this act before the ICC. If at any chance there is no ICC within your organization, you can file the complaint before the LCC, that is known as Local Complaint Committee. You can find the LCC in the DC office, in the appropriate government office. You can go and you can ask them at your taluka, tehsil, or district by going over there. Where's the Office of Sexual Harassment at Workplace? So you can give your written complaint against the person, that this person has on this date and in the presence of those people has subjected has committed an act of harassment. So once you make a complaint against somebody, then the opposite person has to reply against that. So after this complaint can only go either in ICC or LCC. You do not make any mistake of continuing the parallel complaint, so that will not be helpful for you. So either you make a complaint before ICC, or either you make a complaint before the LCC. So once you make a complaint before the ICC or LCC, under the provision of section 9 of sexual harassment at workplace, certain things will occur for you. For example, if you happen to be a female and you need protection from the opposite male counterpart, you can request your organization to shift you from that place to another place, or to shift the opposite party, a male counterpart, from that organization to a different organization. So once a written complaint is made by you against the person, then they have to inquire about that matter. So inquiry is required to be conducted thoroughly, either by ICC or LCC. And after the inquiry is conducted in a way wherein your evidence is taken and the opposite party evidence is taken, and if they reach to the conclusion that an act of sexual harassment has been committed, then you are going to be compensated against that act committed by that person, and that amount of compensation shall be paid by the person who has committed that act of sexual harassment. Once that order is passed, either by ICC or LCC, and the other person is not abiding by that order, you can file for an execution before the DC office. And once the amount of compensation is received by the aggrieved person, then your account or your complaint is settled. Now this is the procedure for the complainant. However, if you happen to be an accused of any complaint initiated by a female counterpart, and if you believe that complaint is false, frivolous, and has been made just to take some revenge, or just to harass you for the reasons are best known to them, then you can defend your case in a very positive way by producing the evidences and witnesses that you have not committed this act. And if you lose your case either before ICC or LCC, you have to appeal against that order before the industrial tribunal, not additional, kind of a session judge before the industry tribunal. You can inquire about that from your local lawyer. And if you are again dissatisfied by the judgment of the session court, then you can appeal against that judgment before the high court. And if subsequently, if you are again dissatisfied, if it does not come in your favor, then before the double bench of high court, and ultimately in the Supreme Court. So first of all, this act was enacted to prevent female at the workplace, wherein they can live in a free environment. So being male counterpart, we have to understand that we have to behave nicely, especially with females, and we are not supposed to enter into an argument with them, and we have to maintain the distance and decency, especially with female counterpart. Now, the distance that I'm using is not to enter yourself into an unwanted argument with, especially with female, when you are working in an organization. So you have to maintain that decency and demeanor, especially with females. And it's a humble request from a female counterpart also, that do not file any false and frivolous complaint against any male counterpart out of rage or out of any vengeance. If there is an act committed by a male counterpart which comes under the definition of sexual harassment, as I've already mentioned, either that person has shown you the pornography, or has asked for the sexual favors, or have made the sexual colored remarks, or have showed you pornography, or some gestures were made which were not welcomed in a physical or non-physical manner, then of course you may initiate a complaint against that person. So that is what the rights and laws for the female and male. I hope I am able to cover that in a short and crisp manner. However, a detailed analysis is required, and detailed debate argument is required when this thing comes up before the court, and a lawyer from both counterpart put their point of view. So ultimately, I want to say that be careful when you're working in an organization, and just know your rights from male and female counterpart. Thank you.